Chapter 7 of The Millionaire Baby. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Millionaire Baby by Anna K. Green. Chapter 7. Find the Child. I could well understand the wrath to which this man had given way by the feeling which now took hold of my own breast. "A boy!" I exclaimed. "A boy." Still incredulous, I leaned over the child and lifted into the full light of the lamp one of the little hands I saw lying outside of the coverlet. There was no mistaking it for a girl's hand, let alone a little lady's. "So we are both fools!" I vociferated in my unbounded indignation, careful however to lay the small hand gently back on the panting breast. And turning away both from the doctor and his patient, I strolled back into the office. The bubble, whose gray colors I had followed with such avidity, had burst in my face with a vengeance. But once from under the influence of the doctor's sarcastic eye, my better nature reasserted itself. Wheeling about, I threw this question back: "If this is a boy and a stranger, where is Gwendolen Ocumpaugh?" A moan from the bed and a hurried movement on the part of the doctor, who took this opportunity to give the child another dose of medicine, were my sole response. Waiting till the doctor had finished his task and drawn back from the bedside, I repeated the question, and with increased emphasis: "Where, then, is Gwendolen Ocumpaugh?" Still the doctor did not answer, though he turned my way and even stepped forward, his long visage, cadaverous from fatigue and the shock of his disappointment, growing more and more somber as he advanced. When he came to a stand by the table, I asked again: "Where is the child idolized by Mr. Ocumpaugh, and mourned to such a degree by his almost maddened wife that they say she will die if the girl is not found?" The threat in my tones brought a response at last, a response which astonished me. "Have I not said that I do not know? Do you not believe me? Do you think me as blind today to truth and honor as I was 6 years ago? Have you no idea of repentance and regeneration from sin? You are a detective. Find me that child. You shall have the money. Hundreds, thousands, if you can bring me proofs of her being yet alive. If the Hudson has swallowed her," here his figure rose, dilated and took on a majesty which impressed itself upon me through all my doubts, "I will have vengeance on whoever has thus dared the laws of God and man, as I would on the foulest murderer in the foulest slums of that city which breeds wickedness in high places as in low. I lock hands no longer with Belial. Find me the child, or make me at least to know the truth." There was no doubting the passion which drove these words hot from his lips. I recognized at last the fanatic whom Miss Graham had graphically described in relating her extraordinary adventure on the bridge, and met him with this one question, which was certainly a vital one: "Who dropped a shoe from the little one's closet into the water under the dock? Did you?" "No," his sharp reply came. "But," I insisted, "you have had something to do with this child's disappearance." He did not answer. A sullen look was displacing the fire of resolve in the eyes I saw sinking slowly before mine. "I will not acknowledge it," he muttered, adding however in what was little short of a growl: "Not yet. Not till it becomes my duty to avenge innocent blood." "You foretold the date." "Drop it." "You were in league with the abductor," I persisted. "I declare to your face, in spite of all the vaunted scruples with which you seek to blind me to your guilt, that you were in league with the abductor, knowing what money Mrs. Ocumpaugh would pay. Only he was too smart for you, and perhaps too unscrupulous. You would stop short of murder, now that you have got religion. But his conscience is not so nice, and so you fear—" "You do not know what I fear, and I am not going to tell you. It is enough that I am conscious of my own uprightness, and that I say, find the child. You have incentive enough. It was true, and it was growing stronger every minute. "Confine yourself to such clues as are apparent to every eye," he now admonished me with an eagerness that seemed real. "If they are pointed by some special knowledge you believe yourself to have gained, that is all the better, perhaps. I do not propose to say." I saw that he had uttered his ultimatum. "Very good," I said. "I have nevertheless one more question to ask, which relates to those very clues. You cannot refuse to answer it if you are really desirous of aiding me in my efforts. Where did you first come upon the wagon which you followed so many hours, in the belief that it held Gwendolen Ocumpaugh?" He mused a moment with downcast head, his nervous frame trembling with the force with which he threw his whole weight on the hand he held outspread on the table before him. Then he calmly replied: "I will tell you that. At the gate of Mrs. Carew's grounds. You know them. They adjoin the Ocumpaughs on the left." My surprise made me lower my head, but not so quickly that I did not catch the oblique glint of his eye as he mentioned the name which I was so little prepared to hear in this connection. "I was in my buggy on the high road," he continued. "There was a constant passing by of all kinds of vehicles on their way to and from the Ocumpaugh entertainment, but none of that attracted my attention till I caught sight of the covered wagon I have endeavored to describe, being driven out of the adjoining grounds. Then I pricked up my ears, for a child was crying inside, in the smothered way that tells of a hand laid heavily over a mouth. I thought I knew what child this was, but you have been witness to my disappointment after 48 hours of travel behind that wretched wagon." "It came out of Mrs. Carew's grounds?" I repeated, ignoring everything but the one important fact. "And during the time, you say, when Mrs. Ocumpaugh's guests were assembling? Did you see any other vehicle leave by the same gate at or about that time?" "Yes, a carriage. It appeared to have no one in it. Indeed, I know that it was empty, for I peered into it as it rolled by me down the street. Of course I do not know what might have been under the seats." "Nothing," was my sharp retort. "That was the carriage in which Mrs. Carew had come up from the train. Did it pass out before the wagon?" "Yes, by some minutes." "There is nothing, then, to be gained by that." "There does not seem to be." Was his accent in uttering this simple phrase peculiar? I looked up to make sure. But his face, which had been eloquent with one feeling or another during every minute of this long interview till the present instant, looked strangely impassive, and I did not know how to press the question hovering on my lips. "You have given me a heavy task," I finally remarked, "and you offer very little assistance in the way of conjecture. Yet you must have formed some." He toyed with his beard, combing it with his nervous muscular fingers, and as I watched how he lingered over the tips, caressing them before he dropped them, I felt that he was toying with my perplexities in much the same fashion, and with equal satisfaction. Angry and all out of patience with him, I blurted out: "I will do without your aid. I will solve this mystery and earn your money, if not that of Mr. Ocumpaugh, with no assistance save afforded by my own wits." "I expect you will," he retorted, and for the first time since I burst in upon him, like one dropping from the clouds, through an unapproachable doorway on the upper floor, he lost that look of extreme tension which had nerved his aged figure into something of the aspect of youth. With it vanished his impressiveness. It was simply a tired old man I now followed upstairs to the side door. As I paused to give him a final nod and an assurance of intended good faith toward him, he made a kindly enough gesture in the direction of my old room below, and said: "Don't worry about the little fellow down there. He'll come out all right. I shan't visit on him the extravagance of my own folly. I am a Christian now." And with this encouraging remark he closed the door, and I found myself alone in the dark alley. My first sense of relief came from the coolness of the night air on my flushed forehead and cheeks. After the stifling atmosphere of the underground room, reeking with the fumes of the lamp and the heat of the struggle which his dogged confidence in himself had made so unequal, it was pleasurable just to sense the quiet and the cool of the night, and feel myself released from the bondage of a presence from which I frequently recoiled, but had never thoroughly felt the force of till to night. My next from the touch and voice of my partner, who at that moment rose from before the basement windows where he had evidently been lying out for a long time outstretched. "What have you been doing down there?" was his very natural complaint. "I tried to listen, I tried to see, but beyond a few scattered words when your voices rose to an excited pitch, I have learned nothing but that you were in no danger save from the overthrow of your scheme. That has failed, has it not? Would you have interrupted me long ago if you had found the child?" "Yes," I acknowledged, drawing him down the alley, "I have failed for to night, but I start afresh to morrow. Though how I can rest idle for 9 hours, not knowing under what roof, if under any, that doomed innocent may be lying, I do not know." "You must rest. You are staggered with fatigue now." "Not a bit of it, only with uncertainty. I don't see my way. Let us go down street and see if any news has come over the wires since I left Homewood. But first, what a spooky old house that is! And what did the old gentleman have to say of your tumbling in on him from space without a by your leave or even an excuse me? Tell me about it." I told him enough to allay his curiosity. That was all I thought necessary, and he seemed satisfied. Jupp is a good fellow, quite willing to confine himself to his particular end of the business, which does not include the thinking end. Why should it? There was no news, this we soon learned, only some hints of a contemplated move on the part of the police in a district where some low characters had been seen dragging along a resisting child of an unexpectedly refined appearance. As no one could describe the child, and I had refused from the first to look upon the case as one of ordinary abduction, I laid little stress on the report, destined though it was to appear under startling headlines on the morrow, and startled my more credulous partner quite out of his usual equanimity by ordering him on our arrival at the station to buy me a ticket for Homewood, as I was going to go back. To Homewood so late? Exactly. It will not be late there, or if it is, anxious hearts make light sleepers. His shoulders rose a trifle, but he bought a ticket. End of chapter 7.